Okay. Whoop. All right. Hello. I've tried to record this video like 3 times now, so maybe this one's the charm. I know what you're thinking. When did 2004 Zac Efron take over this channel? Just keep your head in the game. I don't know. Anyway. There's just something about a notebook, you know, you crack it open, you snap that spine. Ooh, yeah. You know, and you smell those pages. Nice stuff, right? Good. And then, you know, when you're writing it, you feel like, the scribes of old. This must have been how Faulkner wrote. Oh. Basically, the thing that I've discovered about myself is that the best way to use notebooks is to pick a notebook that you like, but then don't treat it as something sacred. You just have to start putting stuff in it. Because if you treat it as something sacred, then you're going to be too afraid to mess it up with what's going on. And then you just don't use it. Right? And then you end up getting a different notebook, and then you just have a bunch of notebooks like me that are waiting to be used. Huh. This is my current notebook. That's nice. So let's get in there. Ooh, smells like a book fair. I also like blank pages. So pages without lines. That's how I like to roll. Blank pages. Lined notebook paper is at the bottom. It's a boo lined notebook paper. It feels like a lined notebook to me feels like it's trying to boss me around. You know? Like a lined notebook is like saying, I got a couple places where you can write. You want to know where you can write? Here on the lines. And I say, homie, don't play that way. I write where I want to write. Look out. What are you going to do? You're going to stop me? Well, your lines get in the way. And that's why I don't use lined notebooks. So I go blank. This thing is beautiful. I think it's even handmade. What? Awesome. So this is my latest notebook. This is my current notebook. I also have found what is essentially my oldest notebook. And this was from high school. This was from like freshman or sophomore year in high school when I was still living in Colorado. I know that because I know where I bought this. I bought this in Estes Park. And you could see my really bad drawings in it. You can see a note where a girl asked me to the Sadie Hawkins dance. You can also find some of the... Wow, that's fascinating. You will also find some of the probably worst poetry ever put to paper. So enjoy that. So anyway, but one of the reasons why I bring up this notebook, this super old notebook, is to not to show you what good taste I had in notebooks as a child, because this is a nice notebook. This is some good taste in notebooks. But the interesting thing about this notebook is that if you open up to the second page, this notebook has the very, very first illustration, the very first thought or idea of the city in which my stories still takes place. It's there. This is from when I was 15 years old. This is from over 15 years ago. And that's how deep in my mind this story has always been, in one way or another, that there are still things from notebooks from almost 2 decades ago that I'm still working on. Now, does that mean that I'm shockingly unoriginal and lazy? Possible. But maybe it's a good idea and it's worth sticking with. So I brought down all these notebooks from the past 15, 20 years. Not 20 years, but I brought down all these notebooks from the past 15 years. And there are maps and stuff and sections of what eventually this book that I'm writing is. And it's really interesting to see how these ideas germinated, what fell away, what's still there, what things I still hold on to. It's really interesting and fascinating. So, one of the things about notebooks is that there's something very romantic about notebooks. And whenever you use a notebook or whenever you try and find a way to write and you're trying to find that comfortable way to write, I know that for me, I would like look to other writers and kind of be like, how did they write? What's their secret sauce, right? And then I would try to emulate that quirk because I thought, quirk equals success. I was writing for a while on, here we go, this. This is called an AlphaSmart 3000. It's an old, from the early 2000s word processor, which, to its credit, you can't get distracted while you type because it just is this little, looks like a calculator typing into that little screen there. However, typing on this thing is physically upsetting because the keys are so gross. And also, if you, like me, like to write when you're taking the train to work, to and fro, guess who looks like a big dum-dum pulling this out of his bag and hunching over it? Like, why couldn't you just use a laptop, bud? Anyway, so that's that. But it's always tempting to kind of learn about authors and how they write and then be like, I want to do it the way they do it. There was one guy, he was so tall that he did all of his writing hunched over on the top of his refrigerator. Chuck Palahniuk writes in bars because I guess that makes his dialogue better. George R.R. Martin apparently writes in some old 80s word processor that's not even a PC, it's like a word processor, and so he types into it. J.R.R. Tolkien apparently typed out the Lord of the Rings Hunt and Peck style, letter by letter, with a typewriter on his lap. And you're like, wow, what a quirk. Or maybe he was an old man who didn't like to use typewriters. But there's so many different ways, and you think maybe if I do those things, maybe if I have find some kind of secret, then I'll be successful, or I'll come up with the right way to do it. No. The way to write is to write, and whatever's the easiest way for you to write is the right thing to do. So for me, I like planning things out in notebooks. I can't write longhand because that never makes it into my book. I've tried writing longhand. My hand gets tired. My text gets way drawn out, and so notebooks have become planning things for me. And if I'm writing in longhand in a notebook, it's because I'm kind of desperate. I have to type things out. Works best for me to type things out on my iPad. I don't know. Why not? That's how it works for me. It's the most convenient thing. I like to bring it around. So I type my story into my iPad, into a web service, into a browser that I pay monthly for so that it can sync to all my different devices. That's kind of weird. That's very 2020, but that's how I do it. I tried different softwares and different things, and so far this thing, it's called Noveler. Maybe I'll link it. I don't know. It's about $10 a month. It's working for me. It's distraction free. It can block out all your stuff. It's nice. I like it. And that's what's working for me right now. So there's no secret, right? There's no hidden way to figure it out. Graphic designers always make jokes. Well, graphic designers all use Macs. And so you think if I'm a graphic designer, I have to use a Mac. There's nothing like that with writing, right? Maybe some people are like, oh, I use a typewriter. Okay, cool. I'm glad that works for you. There's no secret. Writing is as old as writing. As dumb as that sounds, writing has been around as long as writing has been around. And so as long as you're writing, then you're writing. And it doesn't matter where you do it or how you do it, as long as you're able to put something down. Eventually, you're going to have to put it into a computer if you want to share it with people, right? You can't hand off long written, I can't be like, oh, I finished my novel. Do you want to read it? This is the only copy. But whatever your process is, as long as it's productive and you feel like you're getting something done, then great. That's awesome. And before I lose the light and this shot gets really ugly, I mentioned George R.R. Martin earlier. I'm not a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I tried really hard. I enjoyed Clash of Kings a lot, but it doesn't matter. So I wanted to talk about George R.R. Martin really quick. He, in an interview, said that there's basically two types of writing, two kinds of authors. There's the author who outline everything, plan it out, and then fill in the details with their writing. And then there are the authors who plant seeds and then water it and let it grow and see what happens. He's discovered that he is the plant seeds and lets it grow. He doesn't know where it's going, which might explain seasons 7 and 8. Got him!
You okay?
I'm good. I'm telling a joke, hon.
Oh.
You want to hear it?
No, I heard it.
I said George R.R. Martin, he doesn't plan out his writing. He waters it like seeds and lets it grow, which might explain seasons 7 and 8.
Yeah, but I heard you say it because it was so loud.
Got him! My wife is very supportive of me. So he just waters the seeds and lets it grow. I've discovered that I'm not that kind of writer. I like to have a plan. That plan is constantly changing. It's evolving, but I don't like to keep writing if I don't have a structure, if I don't have a route mapped out. And so I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we did some of that together? I could take some of what I've worked on and we could create a route together and see what that looks like and how I would do something like that in a notebook.